I'm so excited that you asked me for a little bit of help because I love to help teachers do what they do best. Our whole priority as an educator is and always should be, what is our student getting from this, and are we truly helping our student? And I know that sometimes teaching it gets so bogged down with so many of the things that we have to accomplish that we just seem like we can't have any fun with our students. And I think one of the best ways to have fun with your students is to show them a little bit of your personality and help build that rapport. Having that rapport with your students is going to be a huge game changer. The students that you're teaching are at a difficult point. They are trying to figure out, am I still a child? Am I becoming a young adult? Where do I fit in between? So that kind of goes along, as complicated as that is. We have a duty to offer our students more nonfiction. And so I think if we can teach nonfiction in an interesting, fun way that's going to help engage them, I think that we're going to do a better service to them. So when you came to me and you said that you were having some difficulty with student achievement, I thought, well, this is the time for us to see what we can do together. So I took the concerns that you gave me and I wrote them down. And then after coming to do several observations, I wrote down all of the great things that you were doing. And I want us to look at what I documented to see what we can do to help you be the best you that you can be. I know that, when you've got an observation coming up with an administrator and they're coming in to watch what you're doing, we've got to give them evidence. And so I feel like what we need to do is we need to make all of your awesome practices everyday practices, and that way every day is a good day. Your students are going to be engaged. Domains 2 and 3 are what we're going to be focusing on today. What's going on in the classroom? How are your students responding? How can you bring them in? I believe that you're going to be happier, your students are going to be happier, and your student achievement concerns will no longer be concerns because your students are going to flourish, and so as will you. You will flourish with them, and that rapport and that relationship that you develop with your students is going to be unbreakable. I was looking at your lesson plans and I saw that Chasing Lincoln's Killer, a nonfiction, is going to be next on your assignment. So I thought of some different activities that we could do to add into your current lesson plans to maybe have a little bit more student involvement, student engagement. They need their hands on it. They're going to remember more when they're having fun. So I think that having activities to bring them in, that's going to be huge. So I thought about the game headbands. I think that would be a fun way to practice what we preach. We are going to play the game with them. We take note cards and write the term on the front with string, and that way they can tie the term to their head. And the students that they're playing with, and this can be done one-on-one, this can be done in small group. This could be you, the teacher, sitting in the front of the room with this on your head while students are jotting down additional clues. They can't just regurgitate the definition. They can't just regurgitate who the character may be that you have written on the card. Their job is going to be to apply that knowledge. Give me an example of what rising action in this nonfiction book is. Tell me what are different elements that are helping as part of this chase grows, that when they're searching for John Wilkes Booth, what are some different events that happen along that plot timeline? Because we know it's not just exposition climax. We know there are different events that have to get us there. So if we can get them to show us how they're doing it in a fun game-like manner, do that. I find that students love having a deadline. And by deadline, I use my stopwatch all the time. I'll say, okay, guys, you've got 60 seconds to tell me in a nutshell the theme of X, Y, and Z. And when they are faced with that parameter, it's a game to them. So they want to impress, they want to participate. So I think that by bringing in academic vocabulary that they're familiar with, cards that have character names on them, or maybe even locations that are associated with the text, you're going to have them chomping at the bits to show off what they know from this text. Another activity, this book is so engaging itself because it's told in a timeline fashion as a cliffhanger. You meet one person who's involved with the crime, and then all of a sudden it switches gears and you meet another person involved with the crime. And so the suspense naturally is built by the author. He's done a great job. So we want to keep our students wrapped in that ball of suspense. So I think a good activity to do with the students would be kind of like a CSI Marion, where they're going to have to go in and use text-based evidence, which as we know, they're going to be using that more and more as they go up, text-based evidence to help piece together a timeline of events for this text. I think that through the use of internet-safe sites that we have pre-screened to make sure that they're all right, to using the Smithsonian National Archives. There's so much information now about the assassination of Abraham Lincoln that this should not be a difficult task at all. The timeline can't just be a simple timeline. They've got to incorporate photographs and artifacts, and they've got to, if they're using evidence from the text, they've got to give it a proper citation. So you see, it's an activity that has the opportunity to build in so many of the different skills and standards and frameworks that we need to be giving them in our classrooms anyway. That is the second activity I have. The third activity is a fun review game. If you find yourself with students who you start to see kind of falling off, they might not be as excited, or you need to really hit home some of the different activities or different terms or people from your text, it's a game similar to headbands, only it's done with paper plates. On the back of the plate, you have a clue in one color ink, and on the front of the plate, you have a term or a character, or again, in this case, a location. And what they're going to do is you are going to have the students sit around in a circle to where they can all see one another, but not so close that they can see what the clue is on the next plate. And you're going to have the first student read off the clue, looking back for information that is now helpful. Well, we know that of course, is going to be a flashback. So someone in that room is going to have the correct answer. This is something this activity can be customized for academic vocabulary. It could be customized to grammar-related or writing-related events. It can be certainly customized to this nonfiction. So you can spread your students out, and again, maybe you've got the name of one of the accomplices on this side, but on this side, you have the event that they were most responsible for within in those days surrounding Lincoln's death. So I think that would be a good activity. The students are held accountable because that means they've got to know what's going on in the text. They've got to be comfortable enough that they can apply that knowledge. It's not just going to be a moment of recall, if that makes sense. The final activity I have for you is going to be definitely culminating. It's definitely going to be at the end of the book. And it also gives another opportunity for you to bring in some extra things that would be helpful to this text, and then going forward as they start reading different works of literature as they go up through secondary level. It would be a court case. Students love to argue. They love to debate things, and this, again, will be putting them in the text. Half of your student body will be divided into defense. Half of your student body will be divided into the prosecution, and we're going to operate under the assumption that John Wilkes Booth was not killed, that he was found there hiding out in the barn. He was successfully retrieved, brought back to Washington, D.C. for a trial. So now your students have got to go to work. You've got both sides are going to have to understand the terms objectivity and subjectivity and bias and prejudice and the preconceived notions that, of course, all jury members have got to be clear from when going into a criminal case. So they're going to have to, again, use text-based evidence. They're going to have to go into the book. They're going to have to find things that are going to help them to build their argument that he is innocent or that he shouldn't receive the death penalty, or on the prosecution's case, they're going to have to go in and find evidence that absolutely there was premeditation, there were accomplices, there were all kinds of evidence left behind by John Wilkes Booth that would ultimately tie him to this crime and to this assassination, and that he should in fact receive the death penalty. So this, of course, brings in an opportunity for some cross-curricular activities with your social studies department, as you are, number one, looking at an actual historical event, and you've got several activities that can be construed as entertaining and engaging for your students. And they're activities that no one is going to be ostracized. Nobody is left out. Everybody has a role in all of these activities. So I hope that this information is helpful, and I hope that I've given you some assistance. I hope you always know that my door is always open to help you develop lesson plans, to help you build a unit, to help you find ways to improve student achievement or feel more secure in what you're doing, which is a great job of helping our students.